here. It says multi. Yep. Oh, here we go. Hello and welcome to Light Warriors Academy Presents. I am so excited to be here with you today. I have a very, very exciting guest that I am just so prepared to share you with. His name is Craig Schulze. I hope I pronounced that right. He is an entrepreneur, an author, and a speaker and an investor with an incredible track record of success. He has owned 5 fitness clubs, a multi-award-winning trainer. He's built a 7-figure online business, which I am so excited to dig into. He's highly successful in investing in property. He's a part owner of one of the largest entrepreneurial educational companies in Australia. He's also got his book, You've Got One Shot, and his podcast, The One Shot Movement, which is just so exciting because he goes out of his way to inspire and educate people to thrive in life. This project was inspired by losing his first son, Ethan, as a stillborn. I'm just going to take a moment to let that breathe. Craig has traveled all over the world to over 120 cities, ticking off bucket list experiences, and also has numerous stories to tell from traveling the world, which we totally understand from living in this nomadic reality. He's got a great blend of life and business coaching through both experience and working alongside some of the best entrepreneurials in the world. Please help me welcome the wonderful Craig Schulze to the stage. Welcome, Craig.
Hey, thank you for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to spending time with you today.
I am just so dash darn excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Light Warriors Academy Presents. Craig, I would love for you to be able to take an opportunity and just introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, just I guess my background, I left home when I was 15, not because I wasn't loved. It was just because of opportunity. My school only went to year 10. I've been self-funded since the age of 17. I put myself through university, become an engineer, fired my boss age 21 to follow my dreams and passion, and that was to be in the fitness industry. I did own 5 fitness clubs, set up 22 franchises, was a multi-award winning trainer. As you mentioned, I built a 7-figure online business, near 8-figure property portfolio as an investor. But my true, I guess, life's work is really about educating and inspiring people to make the most of their one shot at life. And that was inspired by an experience where my wife and I, we went through the loss of our first son, who was stillborn, which was quite a harrowing and life-changing experience. I say in that 1 week of going through that, at that real, I guess, the highest point there, I learned more about myself in 1 week than in 36 years. So as I said, I published my book. I've got a podcast where I've interviewed over 150 of the biggest market leaders in the world that have achieved extraordinary things. And yeah, right now I'm in Melbourne, Australia, but I have traveled to over 120 different cities. So I'm hoping I can add some value to your audience.
That's amazing. I want to just go back a little bit. What was your, you said that things really started to take off for you after your son, Ethan. What was it that helped you to really overcome that trauma for yourself?
Yeah, look, I think it was really a change in perspective of the way I wanted to show up in the world, to be honest. At that point in time, life was while it had its challenges through business, I went through challenges through the global financial crisis, owning 5 fitness clubs. I was on that typical life journey where I was working hard, I was getting ahead, but I was knocking things off that most people do, like buying a house and getting married and starting a family and investing and progressing forward. But I felt to myself at that point in time that if I was a parent and I didn't go through that experience, I probably wouldn't have paid the respect to my children that have been like a father that loves them and give them the most opportunity in the world. I would have just been a dad, and I really felt going through that experience and seeing and feeling how life can be taken away in the blink of an eye. It really was an eye-opening experience of how I wanted to inspire and educate people in the world. And I said in his funeral that my son didn't get one breath on this planet. We're all in the game, so we've got to make the most of our one shot. And 4 years later, I wrote the book, You've Got One Shot.
That's so good. That's so good. I thank you so much for sharing that with me, because I can relate in so many ways. I don't know if you did a little bit of research with me, but I kind of forced myself into that situation. I've got 2 little girls, but like you said, I was doing the very average thing. I had the house, I had the car, I was pushing to put my kids through private school. And I just wasn't showing up fully for them in the way that I wanted to. And I made some really hard decisions where I actually just plucked myself out of the reality so I could give them a bigger, better opportunity through role modeling. So my heart just bleeds for you in a whole different way, but in a very comparable way as well. Not, but same but different. So out of all of these things that you've accomplished, your properties, your investments, your 7-figure entrepreneurial online business, your feat in overcoming this emotional disaster, what would you say is your most proud accomplishment so far?
Look, I really feel if I was to make an impact on humanity, on people and the planet, I would definitely say my book is my life's work in lots of ways, because I put my heart and soul into writing that, and really wanted to bring out a world-class product. So just to rewind a little bit, it took me 4 years to do that. But before I started that, I started journaling about the story in the week between leaving the hospital and the funeral. And then, people were saying, Craig, you should go out and build a personal brand. You should go and build a personal brand. Go and write a book. And I said, look, I don't want to write just another book. I want to bring something to the world that is really going to make a difference. So my book I released in October last year, and I've had hundreds of what I would say life-changing testimonials of people that have written to me and said, look, that first chapter it was just like, I go really raw and, open and very vulnerable. And, I share a lot of wisdom throughout the book. And, I've had people that said, I went through that experience 22 years ago and I've never forgiven the world for that. And I'm dyslexic. I've never read a book. I read your book from page 1 and didn't stop to the final page, and my whole life has changed because of it. So I have made a lot of money. I did come from nothing in terms of my dad. We were living in a house that was rented for $2 a week. I said I left home when I was 15. So I had to grow up, and I funded myself from age 17, put myself through university. And, I've been a fighter, but by the age of 40, I was, technically by most definitions, retired by 40 financially. So that is a huge accomplishment. but I still feel that my book is my heart and soul. Like I didn't write it in a week. It was, got revised with a publisher like 12 times before I brought it to market. So that's it. But my whole core value is freedom. I want to treat the world as an oyster. I have been to 120 different cities. I want to see what the world has to offer. And going through the last 18 to 20 months, that has really shaken my values, because restrictions and not being able to just jump on a plane when you want and do what you want with whoever you want, and by taking that away, really highlights how much that I value the world and what it has to offer as well.
That's so good. That's so good. I can only imagine the amount of impact that your book has had on people because, like I said, I totally understand through that withdrawal, giving you that push into stepping up to the plate, right? For you, it was something traumatic that happened, and you were able to create so much beautiful impact out of that for people that just needed to hear your story to be able to do something for themselves. Oh, just makes my heart sing. So, what was your core strategy that really played into achieving this accomplishment of your book?
I think, look, one of my investments is I'm involved as an investor in the largest entrepreneur education company. We have some really high level coaching programs there, and where I was in terms of, you know, uh, like you look at content creators like Gary Vee or somebody like that, that's, amplifying messages and are known by everyone and seen by everyone. And one of the strategies that I wanted to bring is developing assets that I can redeploy. So, for example, publishing a book, that's an asset for your personal brand that you can then utilize for the rest of your, I guess, entrepreneurial journey. Developing a podcast so you can redeploy that content for people to learn from you, and just creating quality, consistent content to help amplify your message, your brand, and how you show up to the world. So I sort of feel that I've moved into a pseudo media center myself around my message of inspiring people to make the most of their one shot at life, to live life with passion and purpose. And, a lot of my content is built around inspirational education.
So it sounds like you really did a lot of mindset work. You had the mentors that really held you accountable. What would you say would be 3 to 4 skills that would protect you against failure in accomplishing such a big goal?
Yeah, look, I think number one really does get down to mindset. So if you've got a mindset that is unbreakable, and your mindset's really like a skill and a muscle. If you work on it every day, it will get bigger and stronger. If you lose it, I mean, if you don't use it, you'll lose it, type of thing. No different to being in the gym. And I think the mindset would be the thing that will help you deal with challenge and adversity. So I always say to people, what some people look at some challenges as a mountain, I look at them as a molehill, and it gets down to the mindset. I think also one of the things that people, if they want to get ahead in life, it is the currency of your contacts list. So there's a couple of different parts to that. One of them is the people that you have in your circle of influence, people that you're spending time with. It's the language that you in your conversations with people. If people have poor mindset, they look at the world in a negative way, whatever, that will rub off on you. So you often show up as, the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So I'm a big believer in increasing the quality of people that you spend time with, but it extends beyond that, because you then want to grow your network to open ideas and open the opportunity for collaborations, joint ventures. You may not be friends with those people, but you start establishing yourself along the right people. Then there's another element to that, which I call your world-class team. Now, your world-class team is a bit like your advisory board. So it could be somebody that's a superstar at property investing. I'm going to learn off that person there. One person might be your accountant, the person to help you set up the right structures to protect yourself, to minimize tax, to help, to deal with finances and managing your books, etc. Another person in your world-class team might be a health guru, somebody that can give you the right advice in eating, training, etc., etc. So your advisory board is another element to that, or your world-class team, which I talk about. But then I always say to people, once you've set yourself up, one of the most enriching things that you can do is actually give back. And that might be a mentor to somebody that's a little bit further back on the journey, that you can help them grow as well. So I guess when you talk about mindset, you talk about your networks and then your skill sets. And your skill sets are what makes you better at the craft that you're doing. So if you're in a sales role, how do I get better at sales? If you're a builder, how do I become a better builder? If you're a, whatever profession you're in, it's elevating yourself to be in the top 10% as a minimum of your niche, but elevate further to be in the top 1%. And if you're in the top 10%, you'll find that the most people in that niche, like if you're in the top 10%, most of the opportunities will go to the people that are in the top 10% of the niche by default.
That's so good. Yeah. I think it was either Theodore Roosevelt or Henry Ford that, really solidified that idea of having that team around you. And I know for myself, like just what you said, I go out of my way to try to be the dumbest person in the room. I always strive to have smarter people around me so I can, get picked up to those levels, because you are absolutely a sum of those 5 people that you spend your most time with. So thank you so much for bringing that up. It was such an impactful point. So how would you say that leveraging these relationships affected your growth?
Wow, that's a good question. And I think it was my first mentor actually taught me about, if you know how to leverage time, money, and relationships, you can be unstoppable. So he ingrained that into me when I was 21 years of age, when I started my first business. If you got a spare minute or so, I can share a story with you that will take a minute or so for me to share how I got this mentor. But there's a lot of value here that I think your audience can get value out of. Is that okay?
Yes, please. I would love that.
So there's a really powerful lesson here. It's a full chapter in my book, How I Got My Mentor. And what happened was, it was generosity and gratitude was the way that all come about. Now, I was a young entrepreneur on a shoestring budget, and a professional basketball side playing in the top league were looking for sponsors. So they reached out to myself, and I just couldn't afford it. And I couldn't afford it because I was in my first 1 or 2 year in business, and sponsorship costs a bit of money. So what I offered them was 10 $1,500 memberships to, sorry, yes, 10 $1,500 memberships for them to raffle off to raise money. So I gave away my time as value to them with nothing in return expected. Now, they went and raffled that off to their audience. And one lady come into the gym who'd won a 12-month membership from that raffle. Now, she was a player, a wife of one of the players, and she gives me 8 basketball tickets as a thank you for my generosity. Now, a week later, a young family come into my fitness club and they all joined up, and I'm going, wow, I've just picked up 4 new members. So I pull out the 8 basketball tickets and I give them to the family, and they go along to the basketball on the weekend. Now that family come back the next week and said, we're extremely grateful, and it was so generous of you for giving those basketball tickets to us. It was an amazing experience, and just such a generous gesture. Now, I didn't know who they were, but they had a corporate box at one of at the football ground, because they were highly accomplished business people. And they invited me along to the corporate box the next week as a thank you. And I'm like, wow, how lucky am I? I'm going to this corporate box. Now, this guy 20 years later is a really dear friend to me that I speak to on a regular basis, but he taught me how to invest in property. He taught me how to build a business. He taught me how to build relationships. He taught me how to navigate my way financially through the global financial crisis. Whenever I make investments, I book a time with him and I say, can we just talk through this? I need some guidance. I need some advice, and so on. So by the generosity, by not knowing who you're going to come across next, by showing gratitude, by being resourceful, you can change your whole world by just taking that story on board and applying it into your real life. But he taught me about leverage, and because of that, I was able to leverage time, I was able to leverage money, and I leveraged relationships, and I built my podcast off building and developing meaningful relationships.
That's so good. And I can't speak enough about how important relationships are in our growth. Am I frozen here? I look like I'm frozen. You know what? I'm just going to hold 1 second. I'm going to see if I can switch our connection here and see if that makes a difference. Affect our broadcast too much. Am I back? Am I here? Am I active?
Yeah, I can see.
All right. Perfect. I think I'm a little bit clearer here as well. So thank you so much for sharing that story, because I'm a true believer that relationships really is the commodity of the future, and that's what people don't really understand, especially with our currency kind of up in the air and our economy up in the air. If everything, and I've said this before to other people, if everything was to fall flat and we had nothing left, what can you leverage? Your relationships, right? So it's just so important to nurture those relationships. And if you take the opportunity to step up and get high quality relationships, well, that's just going to position you in the best form possible. So thank you so much. That's such a great story. And what a hustler of an entrepreneurial story. I really, really appreciate that. So, so would you say that this has been the best strategy that you've learned to create impact in your life, or where would you go from there?
Yeah, look, no doubt. If I was to say my best strategy is really built around that principle of leverage, time, money, and relationships. And I've opened so many doors through those relationships that have created so much opportunity for me. But if I was to say a skill that I've universally developed along my journey is the ability to build rapport with people, the ability to communicate with people, the ability to show empathy towards people, and really get in the moment in conversation, and really, I guess, the art of communication is probably the right word, is a skill that will help you in your sales, that will help you in negotiating deals, that will help you in the way you think about getting outcomes and getting results, and it applies completely across the board of your life. So even when you're dealing with children as a parent, you're selling quite often to them. So how do I build rapport? How do I build that relationship? How do I get my son to go to bed at the time that I want him? It's sales. It's the ability to communicate. It's the ability to relate. It's the ability to understand how to get an outcome. So I think, apart from the idea of, recession proofing yourself through leverage, it is, the ability to sell and communicate is really, really important. But one thing I will add to that too, and it's the holy grail, and I refer to myself now as an investor more than anything else. And the lesson I learned through the global financial crisis, 12 years ago, has held me in good stead in this crisis. And the reason I learned a lesson there was in my mid-20s, I was a really progressive entrepreneur that was doing so well that I was too risk. I was a risk taker, so I got caught in a situation where I nearly lost everything. So by going through that experience, I said, I'll never, ever, ever go through that again. And by doing that, I assessed risk a lot more, but I often refer to people as make money on money. So what I would do is I'd build a business, I'd make cash, I'd pull that cash out. I wouldn't go and buy a fancy car and blow it on watches and diamond rings and, in one day out the next. I live within my means and then built wealth. And being able to go through the last 2 years where I haven't had to work, I have been able to stay at home. I have had assets that, I can use to live off if I need, but I learned that through that experience. So what I'm trying to say here is, when you master your business, when you master your cash flow, when you master your, whatever it is that you're doing, don't just treat today as the day that I'm a millionaire today, and then tomorrow, when the time turns and the next financial crisis comes through, you bankrupt the next day. Recession-proof yourself by making money on money.
Yeah. Well, it's like that saying, right? Like, how many people have won the lottery and a year later are completely broke, right? Because they haven't learned the financial skills to actually look after that money and grow it. It's just so important to leverage yourself and hedge yourself for your future. Short-term pain for a long-term gain. People have heard me say that over and over and over and over again, because it makes all the difference. So what is your favorite strategy that you're known for, Craig?
I think, really, to be honest, that would be it.
I don't know if it's me, but I just lost your sound.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm not getting sound from you.
Let me click. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
hello?
Your mic is it's not even showing that your vocals are on this side. Folks, tech things happen. It's okay. We will get through this.
What about now? Can you hear me
They
now?
are not unusual. Welcome to creating a business online. Just give us half a minute, and we'll be right back with you.
Can you hear me now, Samantha?
Do you think it might help to log off and log back on, Craig? Is it responding on your side?
Yeah.
You can obviously hear me because you're responding to me.
Yeah, I can hear you, but it looks like my mic's working too.
Let's see if I can do anything on this side. Now, friends, we are currently on a new broadcasting software. This is called the HAPS app. It is in beta for those of you that haven't experienced it before. And what beta means is it's a fancy word for new. It means that things are being tested. Sometimes there will be corruption in software. It's okay. We do get through these issues. And if we need to log back off and log back on, it's not that big of a deal. We will, of course, just sew things back together for you. So, Craig, I think your best option might be to just log off and log back on. I'll re-invite you into the broadcast because in the back office here, I'm not seeing you at all. And in the meantime, folks, I am going to go ahead and give you All right, and welcome back. We are still just fixing our broadcast. Greg will be here in just a minute. And how wonderful of a story does Craig have? He's just overcome adversity, has stepped up to the plate to make sure that he has created a life of meaning on purpose, for purpose. There is nothing more exciting and more admirable than going out of your way. There we go. We have sound.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Cool.
are back. So I can't remember where we left off there.
You asked me what I was best known for strategy-wise.
Good memory. So go.
Look, I think as a content creator, I would say that is a skill that I would say that I'm quite high level at, having 20 years of experience in building businesses, so out in the field. Plus, I've worked with and I've invested over $500,000 of my own money into my own mentors and coaches, incredible thought leaders, and work with them. So I sort of feel like I've learned from the best in the world. I've applied it. There's 5 different times along my journey I've reached the top 1% of my niche. But I think it's the ability to redeploy money and build wealth. I think that is my number one skill. As I said, I've got near eight-figure property portfolio starting from nothing. And also I'm an investor in private companies, investor in stock market, and making money on money. And it's the highest level thing in when I'm coaching people in my coaching program to help people be market leaders in their niche. It's the number 6 part of the framework is now you've got to where you are and you're excelling in business. Now let's turn you into an investor.
So what I'm hearing from you is start to build your identity, but do all of the back work as you're doing it, and put a lot of your effort and resources into like stocks or I know Bitcoin's really hot right now, the real estate, but your investments in general, because those are your wealth builders that will support your overall mission. Is that about right?
Yeah. I read a book. His name, I've actually had him on my podcast. His name's Brad Sugars. He wrote a book called Billionaire in Training. It was a book about 15 years, 16 years ago. And he talks about just business for cash flow, investments for wealth. So I always use business for cash flow, and then I built wealth through investing. Now, there's a discipline to it as well, because when you've got a lot of money, it's quite easy to go and spend the money. So it's, like people always say to me, Craig, you've done so well. They come up to me after a seminar, what car do you drive? And I say, look, dream house before dream car. And, and I don't even really drive. I've had a car for but the car that I drive now, I've had for 5 years. I haven't even done in miles. I haven't even done 13,000 miles in 5 years. So I don't drive, so I don't really respect the car. But one thing I will say about money, you don't ever want to become the richest person in the cemetery. So for me, and I put this in my book as well, I turn my money into memories. So I have a holiday house. Why do I do that? I have the holiday house because I think that provides a very special place of experiences, going to a place that you absolutely love with your family and spending time, quality time in, a utopian place that you just absolutely love spending time in. So I spend my money and turn that into memories. I talk about where I've been to over 120 different cities in the world. I invest my money into experiences because, money is just money. Your houses are just your houses. But your experiences are the things that will enrich your life. So that is one thing for me that while I am an investor, you can't invest any better than in yourself. And as a part of investing in yourself through learning is actually experience as well.
That's so good. And I'm a firm believer of that. I mean, that's how I've been able to make the decisions that I've made. And I have made some intense decisions from an outside perspective. My question for you is coming from the fitness background, everyone knows that fitness experts are very, very good at discipline, right? Because that's their skill that they learn in order to get the optimal body or whatever. And how would you translate that to people that don't have that skill today?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. And on my website, I developed an ebook for people called Work-Life Vision Book, and it's 7 areas to master your life. And it's about building a roadmap and habit plans or habit structures. So I always use the metaphor of, if you want to help someone lose 20 kilos, the best way to do that is to break it up into like little bite-sized chunks. But what are the elements that will help somebody lose weight? Well, exercise is one. Your diet is one. The amount of water you drink. So getting rid of drinks like soft drinks and all of that and replacing it with water is really important. So you build a habits plan around and getting them connected to that habits plan, and results follow for that as well. So I think if you want to build really good discipline into your life, it does get round to goals and habits. And habits are important to achieve goals.
100%. I couldn't agree more. So, what's your favorite strategy that you've implemented this year and that you are continuing to implement throughout the rest of 2021?
For me, I think there's 2 things, and there's 2 really good bits of advice here. What I like to refer to people is creating business alchemy. So creating business alchemy is trying to create something out of nothing. So creating business alchemy might be a joint venture. So put it into context, and I'll go back to the gym game again. So I would be in my gym, or if I'm coaching someone that owns a gym and they want more clients, I want more customers, I'll say, okay, well, why don't you try, and you don't have the budget to invest in marketing and strategy, why don't you try and do complementary joint ventures? And a complementary joint venture might be partnering with your local hairdresser or your local chiropractor or your local whoever it is that has your ideal client, where you're not stealing from each other, you're complementing each other. So business alchemy is around doing that. The other thing for me is your business and life will grow to where you grow. So investing in yourself can be free by learning off podcasts, listening to shows that you put on. And I spend probably 2 hours a day listening to something that inspires or educates me. I love listening to inspiring stories to inspire me, but I love to learn and I love to grow and I love to take a little bit off that person and apply that into my business as well. And one of the key things that I'd encourage everyone to do, especially in today's current climate, is move from consumer to creator. So consumer to creator. So stop listening to podcasts, create your own podcasts. Stop reading books, write a book. So moving out from being consumer into creator mode. And if you follow those three things, I think they'll put you in good stead moving forward year 2022 and beyond.
I know it's crazy that we're already coming into 2022. It's mind-blowing, actually. So how do we learn more about you and your proven processes?
Yeah, look, simply my name is just craigschulze.com. I have a lot of resources there. I have an ebook that's free, which is my work-life vision book, the strategies, the 7 key areas to master your life. If you get if 1 or 2 or 3 of those are out of balance, then there's a good chance that you're not going to live with joy, fulfillment, and happiness. So, for example, you could have all the money in the world, but if your relationships are toxic, you're not going to live with joy, fulfillment, and happiness. If you've got all the money in the world, but your health is dreadful, chances are you're not going to live in joy, fulfillment, and happiness. If you're making all the money in the world and you're fit and healthy and you've got a good relationship, but you hate your job or your business or your career, you're not going to live in joy, fulfillment, and happiness. So it's about putting plans around those 7 key areas. I have that as a free resource. My podcast sits on there as well, where I've interviewed over 150 of the most inspiring people in the world. So I put a lot of resources on there for people, and just go to my website, really. Instagram is something I use quite a lot, and LinkedIn, I communicate with a lot of people on there as well. I post a lot of content on those 2 sites too.
Oh, that's so good. Well, I can't wait to get my hands on your resources. You better believe that I'm going to go and I'm going to chew it up. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I'm super excited. And I want to take this opportunity to say thank you for joining us here in the Light Warriors Academy Presents, where I can really showcase people that are making a difference and changing the lives of others. The term that I've come to learn it as is benevolent capitalism, where it's really all about the good and kind wishing for everybody. And I personally believe through each person finding their joy, ease, and happiness, that we can shift and change the world. So thank you for being a contributor. Thank you for stepping up and using your voice. Thank you for taking your trauma and turning it into golden nuggets for the world. Is there any other contributions you'd love to share before we wrap up here today?
Yeah, look, I think if you really want to take the message of you've got one shot and really literally put that into your life, because a lot of people, this is what I found, until they've had that wake up moment, so they've lost a loved one that's shaken their world, they've gone through a near-death experience that's shaken their world, they will happily roll on through life. And then I try to use my message to say, hey, don't get into the rocking chair and live with regrets. Make the most of your one shot at life. My story is to wake people up now to say, if I'm 45 and I have not chase my dreams or really done the things that will make me happy in life. It's a wake-up call for people to do it now. Start now. Don't wait. Don't live with regrets. You've got one shot at life. Go out there and give it your best shot, whatever that is for you, whether it's to climb the corporate ladder, be the best mum or dad, build a business, travel the world, whatever it is for you, it's for you. Thank you.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for being here, Craig. What a pleasure to showcase you. Make it the best day possible. Bye for now.